Sir, step away from the vehicle. This is a restricted detail.
I'm not on your detail.
I'm on mine.
Badge is right here.
Hey, let's keep it calm,
I
gentlemen.
said back up.
Get your hand off me.
Weapon out. Holster it.
Now. You pull steel on a badge carrying traveler. You're the one in
Everybody
trouble.
breathe.
Federal
IDs,
Air
both
Marshal,
of you.
active
Right
status.
now.
Special Agent, Secret
Then
Service.
you know the rules.
You know the look. The stare strangers give when they see confidence they don't think you're allowed to have. Tonight, that look comes from men who wear suits, earpieces, and government credentials. Men who believe nothing and no one can challenge them. Because they are the Secret Service. Untouchable, unquestioned. Above the people they claim to protect, but not tonight. It starts with a routine traffic stop outside a quiet airport terminal. A black traveler behind the wheel of a rented sedan. No speeding, no violation, no reason. Just a silent decision from a convoy of unmarked government vehicles to box him in. Doors open. Agents step out. Their hands rest on holsters. Their voices, cold and commanding, demand proof he belongs on the road he paid to drive on. They expect fear. They expect compliance. They expect the silence they force on everyone else. But this time, the man they pulled over isn't just a traveler. He isn't just a passenger passing through the night. He is federal security, too. Higher clearance. Higher authority. Higher than anyone standing outside his window. He reaches into his jacket. Slowly. Controlled. Calm. Not a weapon, a badge. And when the agents see it, the air changes. Because they didn't just pull over a civilian. They pulled over someone they cannot bully, cannot threaten, cannot make disappear behind paperwork and excuses. For the first time, they are the ones who freeze, and when the man steps out of the car, the showdown begins. Night settled thick over the interstate like a slow-moving curtain. Most travelers had cleared the highways hours earlier, leaving long stretches of asphalt silent and empty. Headlights cut through the dark in isolated pairs, everyone heading somewhere, no one paying attention. But one car did not move like the rest. It stayed steady, careful, not fast and not slow. A charcoal gray rental sedan with out-of-state plates. Clean, quiet, unremarkable. Inside that car sat Marcus Hale. 42 years old, 6 feet tall, calm expression. A black federal officer returning from a security assignment he had not planned to take. His suit jacket lay folded neatly on the back seat beside a briefcase that held nothing more dangerous than paperwork, clearances, and a sealed transport report. His badge rested inside his jacket pocket. He had shown it earlier that day at John F. Kennedy Airport while escorting a diplomatic passenger off a private flight. Then he boarded a commercial plane with everyone else, landed in Richmond, rented a car, and began driving north toward Arlington. No lights, no escort, no convoy. Nothing to mark him as anything more than a traveler heading home. And that was exactly how he wanted it. But an hour into the drive, just outside Chesterfield County, something shifted on the road behind him. 2 black SUVs appeared in his mirror. No plates on the front, dark tint, high beams a little too bright. They paced him for 3 full minutes. No passing. No falling back. Just matching his speed at 64 miles per hour. He felt it first in his chest. Not fear, not nerves. Just awareness. The trained kind. The kind that never went away after decades in federal work. He turned on his signal and moved to the middle lane. The SUVs followed. Another car appeared ahead, then slowed, creating space only for the sedan. A boxed wedge. A tactic. Marcus glanced down at the speedometer. 64, exactly the same. Nothing illegal. Nothing suspicious. And yet the SUVs moved closer, narrowing his options. He exhaled slowly. He stayed calm. He kept both hands on the wheel. Then blue lights flashed in his mirror. The SUVs activated emergency beacons, hidden behind the grille, faint at first, then sharp and unmistakable. Sirens chirped once, not a warning, a command. Marcus signaled and pulled toward the shoulder. The SUV behind him slid to a stop. The one ahead cut off the exit lane. He was sealed in. Rain from earlier storms still glistened across the pavement, reflecting blue and red light in broken ripples. The road was empty in every direction. No witnesses. No traffic cameras this far out. The only sound was the engine ticking as it cooled. Marcus shut off the ignition. He lowered the driver window. He kept both hands visible on the wheel. And he waited. The SUV doors opened. 3 men stepped out. They wore tailored black suits, polished shoes, earpieces, and holsters that showed just enough metal to send a message. The one closest to Marcus approached first, posture straight, expression blank, jaw set in a shape that suggested habit more than personality. He did not introduce himself. He did not ask for license or registration. He stood by the door and stared. Marcus could read the type instantly. Not state police. Not local sheriff. Secret Service field units. Probably protective detail from Richmond or a neighboring district. But they weren't escorting anyone. No VP visible. No government plates. Just intimidation rolling on tires. "Step out of the vehicle," the lead agent said. The voice was controlled, but it carried arrogance like weight. Marcus looked forward, not at him. He spoke evenly, without raising or lowering his tone. "I would like to know the reason for this stop." Silence. The agent didn't like being questioned. His jaw tightened. He repeated the order, slower this time, as if English had suddenly become a challenge. "Step out of the vehicle." Marcus didn't move. He didn't argue. He stayed still, breathing steady, heart steady, mind steady. His voice remained calm. "I am asking for cause." The second agent circled toward the passenger side, hand resting lightly on his weapon. Not drawn, not threatening. Just positioned where everyone could see it. A silent dare. They expected fear. They expected apologies. They expected compliance from someone they assumed they outranked. A black man alone at night on a highway in the middle of Virginia. Marcus slowly reached into his jacket pocket. 2 fingers only, clear and deliberate. He pulled out his badge wallet and held it in his palm where the rain and flashing lights made the metal gleam sharp and undeniable. He turned it toward the lead agent. The badge caught the light. United States Department of Homeland Security, Federal Protection Service, Senior Security Officer. It outranked every shoulder in front of him. The lead agent blinked once, then leaned closer to see it. His eyes narrowed. His posture shifted just a fraction. Only someone trained like Marcus would notice. A tiny hesitation. A silent recalculation, but he did not step back. He did not acknowledge the badge. He did not apologize for the stop. Instead, he tried to regain control. "What are you doing out here?" the agent asked. Marcus kept his voice neutral. "Returning from a cleared assignment." "What assignment?" the agent asked. "Classified." The agent's mouth twitched. He didn't like that answer. He didn't like that the man in the car was not afraid. And most of all, he didn't like that the authority he assumed he held was suddenly gone. He tried another angle. "Why are you driving a rental?" Marcus didn't blink. "Because that was the issued transport vehicle." The agent stepped back a measured inch. The second agent approached from the passenger side, checking the interior with a flashlight. The third remained behind both vehicles, speaking quietly into a radio. Marcus watched the lead agent carefully. Something flickered in the man's eyes. Not suspicion, not confusion. Recognition. He knew the badge. He understood its weight, but he did not want to obey it. And that was where the problem began. "You're going to step out of the vehicle," the agent said again, lower this time. Not a request, but a threat. Marcus looked directly at him. "On whose order?" The agent paused. Authority slipped away from his voice. He tried to retrieve it. "On mine." Marcus almost laughed. Almost. But he didn't. He stayed still. "Hands on the wheel. I do not step out," he said, "unless you state your legal reason." The agent's jaw clenched hard. He motioned to the second agent. They spoke quietly. Too far for Marcus to hear, but not too far to read body language. Frustration, aggression, embarrassment, the kind that grows dangerous fast. The second agent returned to the driver window and leaned down. His voice was quieter, but sharp in a different way. "Look, we can do this easy, or we can do this hard." Marcus looked forward again. Calm. Controlled. unmoved. "You will not search my car," he said. "Without cause." The agent leaned closer, breath sour with impatience. "We don't need your permission," but they did, and all three of them knew it. At that moment, the radio crackled. The third agent spoke louder, agitated. "He's not in the system. His clearance ID isn't registering." Marcus turned his head just slightly, eyes narrowing. The lead agent frowned. "Run it again." "I did. Nothing. The code's not authorized. That was impossible, unless someone had wiped him, unless someone had removed him." The lead agent stepped back from the window. His eyes changed. What had been ego a minute earlier turned into suspicion. Not casual suspicion. Dangerous suspicion. Marcus sat still, breathing slow, mind processing too fast to slow down. His clearance file should exist. His ID should verify within seconds. Federal authentication ran on secure servers, never offline. But if someone had removed him from the system, if someone wanted him invisible, this wasn't a traffic stop anymore. This was isolation. The lead agent motioned toward the driver door. "You're coming with us." Marcus felt the shift in the air. All three agents were now in a different posture, no longer trying to intimidate, now operating with intention, purpose, objective. He had two choices: stay inside the car and risk escalation, or step out and control the moment. He unlocked the door and pushed it open slowly. Rain dotted the pavement. The night smelled of wet asphalt and cold air. He stood straight, hands visible, posture neutral, gaze steady. The agents watched him with a mix of caution and something more personal, something uncomfortable. The lead agent stepped forward. "Hands behind your back." Marcus did not move. "On what charge?" The agent stared at him, eyes narrowing again. "You will comply." Marcus stayed still. The road was empty. No headlights. No witnesses. The SUVs blocked any view from the main lanes. The world could shrink very small in places like this. Finally, the lead agent took one more step forward. "We can do this quiet or loud." Marcus stared him down. "You are making a mistake." The agent reached for cuffs. That was when another set of headlights appeared in the distance. Small. Car. Civilian. Approaching fast enough to force the SUVs to move or risk a collision. The third agent ran back to wave it around. The car slowed, confused by the blockade. Its driver hesitated just long enough to see Marcus standing outside with three agents surrounding him. A witness. The lead agent stopped mid-reach. For a moment, no one breathed. Then the single decision that changed everything happened. Marcus took his badge, held it shoulder high, and spoke so the civilian could hear him across the pavement. "Federal officer. Unauthorized stop. Requesting public witness." The words hit the air like a trigger. The civilian's phone came up immediately. "Recording." The agents froze. Their faces locked in place. Whatever plan they had counted on silence. No witnesses. No footage. No trail. They had just lost all three. The third agent shouted toward the civilian. "Keep moving." But the driver didn't leave. He rolled down the passenger window, phone still recording, eyes wide and alert. Marcus looked straight into the camera. Calm, controlled. The kind of control that scares people who rely on fear. "My name is Marcus Hale," he said. "Federal Protection Service. These men are detaining me without cause," the lead agent snapped. "Put that phone down." He took one step forward. The civilian did not flinch. He kept recording. The second agent muttered a curse. The third looked toward the dark trees as if expecting headlights, backup, or orders that weren't coming, because this stop was not official. This stop was not legal. This stop was not supposed to be seen. The lead agent leaned close to Marcus one last time. His voice dropped to a whisper, dropping the official tone. "You think that camera will save you?" Marcus did not blink. Yes, the civilian kept filming. The lead agent stepped back. He signaled his team. They got into their SUVs. Not one word exchanged, engines started. Tires spun on wet pavement. The SUVs pulled away, disappearing into the night as if nothing had happened. Marcus stood alone on the shoulder, rain settling on his shoulders, heart finally beating harder than his breathing. The civilian got out of his car, phone still recording, voice unsteady. "Are you okay?" Marcus nodded once. "Yes, thank you. You want me to stay until backup arrives?" "Police? Highway patrol?" Marcus thought for a long second. Then he answered quietly, "No, not yet." He walked back to his sedan, sat down in the driver's seat, and closed the door. The window stayed down. The civilian waited to see if he needed help. Marcus shook his head, calm but distant. "I'll be fine." The civilian nodded and pulled away slowly, but not before capturing the license plates of the black SUVs. Marcus watched the road long after the car disappeared. He didn't start the engine. He didn't call the county sheriff. And he didn't radio his division. Because if his badge wasn't in the system, then someone bigger than the men in suits wanted him removed. He took out his phone and opened his secure network. His code still worked for direct channels. Only one name appeared online at this hour. A friend from training. A person who owed him nothing but had never asked him for anything in return. He sent a message with one sentence. "Why am I off the grid?" The response came 20 seconds later. "You're not supposed to be." Marcus stared at the 3 words on his screen. Rain pattered against the windshield. The night stayed wide and empty around him. Then another message appeared. "Get off the highway. Now." He didn't think. He didn't hesitate. He started the engine, because the man who sent that message had never warned him lightly. Not in 20 years of service. Not once. Marcus switched on his headlights and pulled back onto the road, leaving the shoulder and the silence behind. He didn't know who had erased his credentials. He didn't know why the Secret Service tracked him. But someone inside the federal system wanted him gone. And what he didn't know yet was this. The stop on that empty highway wasn't the beginning. It was already the middle. And the night was not nearly done with him. The road ahead stretched empty, the kind of empty that made the world feel wider than it should. Marcus drove without music, without radio, without distraction. Just the hum of the tires on slick pavement and the faint hiss of wind pressing against the side of the car. His eyes flicked from the rearview mirror to the dark horizon. No headlights behind him. No SUVs trailing. No sign of government agents, or at least none visible. But he knew better than to trust silence. Someone had erased his credentials. Someone had ordered 3 Secret Service agents to intercept him on a deserted stretch of highway. Someone had expected fear, obedience, and disappearance. And that meant someone with power. Not a field supervisor. Not a regional director. Someone high enough to make a federal security officer vanish with a keystroke. The sedan turned off the interstate and onto a 2-lane highway lined with woods. The trees pressed in close, branches arching overhead like a tunnel. The GPS in the center console remained dark. He hadn't programmed a destination. He didn't need one. The message from his contact had been short, sharp, and immediate. Get off the highway. It meant the highway was compromised. Cameras, trackers, eyes. The Bureau might not be able to find him through credentials, but they could find him through traffic systems. He drove another mile before pulling into the parking lot of a closed convenience store. Fluorescent lights flickered weakly inside, empty shelves and a dusty counter barely visible. He killed the engine, but not the lights. He kept his hands on the steering wheel and watched the road. 10 seconds passed. 30. 1 full minute. Nothing moved. He reached into the glove compartment and retrieved a slim black case. Inside was a secure satellite phone. Unregistered, untraceable, issued only for emergency operations. He powered it on. The screen glowed pale blue, searching for a connection. It linked to an encrypted relay, then opened a direct channel. Only one number existed in its memory. He dialed. The line rang once, then clicked open. No greeting, no name. Just breathing. "Tell me what you know," Marcus said. The voice on the other end was low and controlled, older than his. "You were flagged 30 minutes after you left the airport." "Flagged for what?" "Rerouted protocol." Unauthorized domestic movement, he frowned. I was released from my assignment. Logged and cleared? Not anymore. Your clearance was revoked at 22:14 hours. His jaw tightened. By who? A pause. Too long. Too careful. You don't want the answer to that over an open line. The silence in the convenience store parking lot grew heavy. Rain began to fall again, tapping softly on the windshield. Marcus kept his voice level. 3 Secret Service agents intercepted me. No warning. No charges. No explanation. I know. They weren't the first. He went still. What do you mean? You're not the only one they went after tonight. His pulse kicked hard in his chest. Who else? The voice answered quietly, almost reluctantly. Everyone who handled the Richmond transport detail for the last 6 months. He leaned back in the seat, mind racing. That detail had been small. Quiet, routine, diplomatic escorts. Nothing sensitive. Nothing criminal. Nothing worth erasing federal records over, unless someone had used that operation for something else. What's happened to them? Marcus asked. 2 were detained at their homes. 1 went dark an hour ago, and you, the voice hesitated, you were the only one who got off the grid before the order went live. Marcus closed his eyes for a moment. Someone had planned this. Someone wanted every member of that operation neutralized. But why? The voice continued. You need to lay low. No, Marcus said. I need answers. You go after answers tonight, you won't survive until morning. Marcus opened his eyes. The rain had grown heavier. A truck passed on the highway behind him, its headlights blurring through the downpour. You still have access to the old Richmond records? Marcus asked. Yes, but not for long. They're purging files. Then start backing up everything from the diplomatic flights. That's a mistake, the voice warned. It's the only move we have. The voice exhaled slowly, defeated. You always were stubborn. You always backed me anyway. A pause. Then I'll send coordinates. There's a place you can hide off-grid. No cameras. No patrols. No federal presence. From there, we find who did this. Send them, Marcus said. One more thing, the voice added. Don't trust anyone. Not local law enforcement. Not federal agents. Not even your own agency. I know. The line disconnected. Marcus powered off the satellite phone and dropped it back into the case. The rain streaked across the windshield, blurring the world into shapes and shadows. He was alone. He was off-grid, and the only people who knew he was alive were the same ones trying to erase him. He shifted into drive and pulled. Back onto the road. The coordinates arrived 10 minutes. Later, sent in coded numbers his brain translated instinctively. A rural zone west of Fredericksburg. Forest roads, dirt terrain, no cell service, no power lines. It would take an hour to get there, maybe more in the storm. He would need fuel first. He turned onto State Route 17, heading toward a small 24-hour station. The lot was quiet when he arrived. 1 car parked near the air pump. No driver. Just the dull glow of lights reflecting off wet pavement. He pulled to pump 3 and stepped out. The rain was cold against his skin, seeping into his shirt. He inserted his card, selected premium, and placed the nozzle into the tank. He scanned the lot. The road. The tree line. Still quiet. The pump clicked, fuel rushing through the hose with a low vibration. He checked the windows of the convenience store. Only 1 clerk stood inside, a teenager leaning on the counter staring at a phone. Nothing unusual. He returned his eyes to the road. Headlights appeared in the distance. Small sedan, civilian, driving slow. It rolled past without stopping. He exhaled once. The pump clicked again, signaling the tank was full. Marcus replaced the nozzle and scanned the receipt. He reached for the driver door and paused. Something was wrong. Rainwater had begun pooling near the rear tires of his sedan, and in that reflection he saw it. Headlights behind him. No engine sound. Parked near the far edge of the lot. A black SUV, not a civilian model. Not a family car, government grade. Same tint, same wheels. Same silence. His pulse slowed, not sped. Training kicked in. He opened the driver door casually, sat down, and shut it without slamming. He locked the doors. He placed both hands on the wheel. He did not start the engine. He waited. The SUV did nothing. No movement, no agents. No door opening. Just presence. He counted 20 seconds. 30. 50. If they were Secret Service, they wouldn't wait. They would approach immediately. If they were federal contractors, they would flank first. If they were local, they'd light him up with patrol lamps, but they didn't. They sat still, which meant surveillance. Someone was watching from a distance. Someone tracking his movement but not ready to act. He reached for the ignition. A soft tap hit the rear bumper. Another vehicle had rolled up behind him. He checked the mirror. A second SUV. Same model. Same tint. No lights. He was boxed in again. He didn't hesitate. He shifted into reverse, tires skidding. The sedan hit the second SUV hard enough to jolt it backward. Not enough to injure. Enough to create space. The first SUV's doors opened. Two men stepped out. Same suits. Same posture. Same silent intent. Marcus shifted into drive. Tires spun on wet pavement. The sedan lurched forward, shooting between the fuel pumps and heading toward the road. The SUVs moved fast, trying to block him, but the rain and slick pavement worked in his favor. He cut across the shoulder, jumped a shallow ditch, and hit the road at 40 miles per hour. One SUV followed. The others stayed behind. He accelerated to 60, then 70. The wipers beat across the windshield, clearing sheets of rain. He checked the mirror. Only one set of headlights. Keeping distance, not trying to stop him. Tracking him. Someone wanted to know where he was going. He turned off the main road, cutting through side streets. The SUV stayed back, never closing the gap. He passed through two small towns. Dark storefronts, sleeping houses, empty sidewalks. The SUV remained just far enough behind to keep from spooking a civilian witness. Marcus approached a railroad overpass. Narrow, blind. He took it at speed, then braked hard on the other side. The sedan skidded. He cut the lights. He swung left onto a gravel service road, killing the engine. The SUV sped past, headlights slicing through rain. They didn't see him. He waited 30 seconds. Silence returned. The rain softened. The world stilled again. He restarted the engine but didn't turn the lights back on. He drove the gravel road slowly, careful not to draw attention. The trees on either side crowded close, branches scraping the sides of the sedan. The road curved left, then right, then vanished into forest. The GPS was useless here. Only instinct and rough mapping kept him moving toward the coordinates. An hour later, the trees opened into a clearing. A weathered cabin stood at the center. Dark wood, rusted metal roof, a back porch sinking into the ground. No power lines. No vehicles, no noise. Just rain and wind. He parked behind the cabin, hidden from the road. He stepped out, careful and quiet, scanning the tree line for movement. Nothing. He approached the door. It was locked. He reached under the porch railing and found a rusted key taped to the wood, exactly the way old field stations used to store access. He unlocked the door and stepped inside. The air was stale, filled with dust and cold. Furniture covered in sheets. A wood stove in the corner. Map board on the wall. Metal case under the table. He shut the door and bolted it. Only then did he let his guard drop a fraction. Not enough to relax. Just enough to breathe. He pulled out the satellite phone and turned it on again. A single message appeared. "They know you're at the cabin." "They are coming." Marcus lowered the phone slowly, his jaw set. His mind sharpened. His pulse steadied. There would be no time to run. Whoever erased his identity had the resources to find him anywhere. He checked the window. Rain blurred everything. The darkness wrapped the clearing like a blanket. But something moved beyond the trees. He reached for the metal case under the table, snapped it open, and pulled out a compact rifle. Field issued, stripped down, unmarked. He loaded the first magazine, then the second. He positioned himself to the left of the window where he could see without being seen. Something else moved. A shadow, Then two, not headlights, not vehicles. Footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. Close. A twig snapped outside. Then another. The storm covered everything else, but not the quiet approach of trained men. Marcus raised the rifle, breath deep and steady. He kept his eyes on the door. He listened for voices but heard none. These weren't police. These were professionals. Quiet entry. No flashlights. No commands. No warnings. He backed away from the window and took position near the stove, where darkness swallowed his outline. The footsteps reached the porch, a soft click of metal. Someone testing the lock. They expected him asleep. Defeated. Afraid. The knob turned. The doorframe shifted. Then a voice at the window. Low, unfamiliar, confident. "We know you're in there, Officer Hale." He did not answer. "Come out. You're not on duty anymore. You're a civilian. And civilians don't walk away from classified operations." Marcus stayed silent. A pause. Then the quiet scrape of metal picking the lock. The knob turned. The door cracked open. Rain blew in through the gap. The intruder stepped inside. Marcus moved without hesitation. He struck first. The first intruder crossed the threshold quietly, expecting a silent room, a man half asleep, maybe unarmed, maybe defeated. He didn't expect speed. He didn't expect precision. And he didn't expect Marcus Hale. Marcus stepped out of the shadows with controlled force. One hand gripped the rifle. The other locked around the intruder's wrist, twisting downward. The man's silenced pistol hit the floor. Before it could clatter, Marcus drove an elbow into his jaw. The intruder went limp, collapsing silently onto the wood. No time to breathe. A second shadow moved through the door. Marcus dropped low. Boots scraped the floor. A hand reached out blindly, searching the wall for a light switch. Marcus grabbed the man's ankle and yanked. The intruder hit the ground hard. The moment his body landed, Marcus pressed a knee to his spine and pinned him there. No struggle. No sound. 2 down. Not enough. Outside, the rain masked more movement. Branches shifted. Wet leaves crushed beneath deliberate feet. Trained. Coordinated. They hadn't come to arrest. They hadn't come to talk. They came in silence because silence has one purpose: removal. Marcus checked the windows without rising fully. The clearing was dark but not empty. Faint outlines of bodies in tactical gear approached through the trees, moving slow, rifles angled forward, visors glinting with the faintest reflection of the cabin lights. There were more than 3, maybe 5, maybe 7, too many to run from, too many to hide from. He needed to shift the field. He dragged both unconscious intruders deeper into the cabin, away from the door. He moved silently, every motion calculated. Years of field work trained his muscles more than his mind. Speed without panic, strategy without noise. Outside, the team halted. They were regrouping, preparing entry. The cabin had 1 door and 2 windows. The back window faced a tree line thick with brush. The side window looked out toward the gravel road. Both were angles easy to watch and easy to fire into. He needed a different route. He reached for the metal case again and opened the false bottom. Below the rifle was a small black switch box with 2 wires attached to a cylindrical device. A field-grade flash charge, non-lethal, designed to blind and deafen for 6 seconds. 6 seconds wasn't much, but for someone trained like him, 6 seconds was war. He mounted the device just inside the doorframe, wiring it to the rusted latch so that the next forced entry would trigger it. Then he killed the lantern he had switched on earlier. The room fell back into darkness. He moved to the back of the cabin and tested the window. Hinges loosened easily. Somebody else had prepared this place long ago. He pushed the window open an inch and listened. Rain. Wind. Footsteps closing in. The attackers formed a perimeter. 2 at the front, 2 at the sides, at least 1 circling behind. They didn't speak. They signaled with hand motions Marcus could visualize without seeing. Silence was their language. They thought they were hunting. They didn't know he was waiting. The front doorknob turned again, this time slowly, carefully. The lock had already been picked. The door opened. The metal latch lifted. The wire pulled tight. Flash. Even from the back of the cabin, the burst filled the space with white heat and a shattering crack. A scream of shock split the silence. Bodies hit wood. Someone dropped to a knee. Someone else fell against the wall. Marcus moved instantly. He slipped out the back window and rolled into the wet brush, rifle slung across his chest. Rain soaked his shirt. Mud splashed beneath him. But he didn't stop. He circled left, keeping low, eyes adjusting fast to the darkness. He reached the far corner of the cabin and saw two men crouched near the porch, rifles aimed blindly, disoriented, blinded, vulnerable. He raised the rifle, aimed, and fired twice. Suppressed shots, clean, precise. Both men fell without sound. Leaves rustled behind him. He spun, expecting another attacker, but it was a deer bolting through the undergrowth, startled by the noise. He exhaled once, then listened again. Someone was still standing. A voice called out softly, not panicked, controlled, steady. Too calm for someone caught off guard. Officer Hale. Marcus stilled. The voice was male. Low, familiar, but not from the cabin. Someone older. Someone confident. Someone certain the night still belonged to him. "You're wasting energy," the voice continued. "You can't win this." Marcus remained silent. "I know you're listening." "You always listen." The rain lightened, becoming a thin whisper across the clearing. Marcus stayed hidden, breath slow, waiting for the man to reveal position. The voice continued, steady and unhurried. 4 of my people are down. I'll lose more if I send them in blind. You were always precise, always controlled, always efficient." Marcus recognized the tone first. Authority. Intelligence. The way someone speaks when they know every angle, every outcome. This wasn't a field operative. This was a commander. "You want answers," the man said. "You're not going to get them by killing my team." Marcus still said nothing. A faint beam of light scanned through the trees, landing on the cabin's broken windows. The flare had melted the edges of the frame. Smoke drifted upward. "You handled the Richmond assignments," the voice continued. "You escorted high-profile diplomats. You saw cargo, not passengers. You carried sealed cases, not luggage. You were told not to ask questions." Marcus's pulse thinned. "Those words weren't random. You never asked," the voice said. But someone else did, Marcus knew. The diplomat from 6 months ago. The one who panicked on the tarmac. The one who disappeared 2 days later. Rumors had spread through the federal channels. Quiet rumors, whispered only when doors were closed. That diplomat didn't defect. He didn't run. He was erased, just like Marcus. "Come out," the voice said. "You and I can talk." Marcus raised the rifle a half-inch higher, still hidden. "You're not here to talk." The clearing went quiet for a moment. Then the voice replied, darker now. "No, I'm here to finish what started at the airport." Marcus moved deeper into the trees, circling to get a visual. The commander stood under a thick pine, his silhouette barely visible. A long raincoat soaked to the knees. Suit beneath. Earpiece still connected. He wasn't alone. 3 more operatives flanked him, rifles pointed toward the cabin, unaware Marcus was behind them. The commander spoke again. "You were taken off the grid because you were loyal, and loyalty makes you dangerous. You don't sell information. You don't leak files. You don't break." Marcus recognized the truth in the words. People like him didn't talk. They acted. He raised the rifle, sighting the closest operative. But before he fired, the commander lifted a hand, signaling his team to stand down. "Marcus," he said quietly, "you don't understand what you were part of." Marcus lowered the rifle a fraction. "Not surrender, not hesitation, calculation. Then explain it," he said. The commander exhaled slowly, as if relieved Marcus finally spoke. "Your escort assignments were cover operations. Those diplomats were not passengers. They were couriers. They carried classified biological samples out of agency control. Samples we didn't authorize. Samples that disappeared. A cold wave spread through Marcus's chest. Biological. Not weapons. Not drugs. Something worse. The commander continued. Someone inside Homeland broke chain of custody. Someone high. Someone smarter than most of us. They used your escort records to move material across borders. And now those samples are missing. Marcus tightened his grip on the rifle. Why erase me? Because someone knows you saw things without realizing it. Someone believes you can connect the trail. And someone is terrified you will. Lightning flashed overhead, bright and jagged. The storm rolled again. The clearing shook with distant thunder. The commander took a careful step forward, palms open. I'm here to bring you in alive. But if you run, Shaw will kill you. He's the one who wiped your credentials. He's the one who sent the first team. He's the one who wants every courier gone. Marcus's mind raced. Shaw, Deputy Director of Homeland. The same man who ordered the Richmond operation. The same man who smiled publicly on camera and shook hands with governors and diplomats. The commander's voice dropped lower. I need you alive because you are the only one who can prove what he stole. Marcus kept the rifle raised. If that were true, you wouldn't have come with a kill team. The first team wasn't mine, the commander said. I intercepted the order and replaced them with my own. If I hadn't, you'd already be dead. Marcus studied his voice, his posture, his distance. He wasn't lying, but truth inside the federal world was never simple. Everyone believed they were the only clean one in a room of corruption. Everyone thought they were saving the country just a little differently. I don't trust you, Marcus said. The commander nodded once. Good, that's why we picked you. Wind swept through the clearing, bending branches and shaking water loose in heavy droplets. The commander lowered his hands and spoke quietly. You killed 2 of my men. I can't take you in without resistance. And I won't leave you here to die. That means one choice. Marcus didn't move. Say it. You give me the names of every agent who worked Richmond with you. They're in danger. Shaw's cleaning house. I can protect them. Marcus lowered the rifle just slightly. Names. That was the real reason he was here, because Marcus was the only one who knew all 6 operatives on that assignment. No written record existed. No roster, no logs. Only verbal directives, only trust. If he gave the names, Shaw might find those people faster. But if he didn't, the commander couldn't protect them. Every second of silence felt heavier. Finally, Marcus spoke. I don't give names without proof. The commander nodded again, still calm. Then walk with me. He motioned toward the cabin. The flickering remnants of the flash charge still smoldered inside. Rain soaked the doorway. The unconscious intruders remained on the floor. Marcus stepped closer, rifle still raised, eyes locked on the commander. He moved slow, not trusting anything in front of him. But he needed information. He needed direction. And right now, the commander was the only thread in a web of shadows. The commander reached into his coat and removed a small tablet. Waterproof case. Government-grade encryption. He held it out, neutral and unthreatening. It on, he said. Marcus kept the rifle aimed with one hand and powered the tablet with the other, a video opened, surveillance footage. Time-stamped, a loading dock at the Richmond airfield. Marcus saw himself on the screen escorting diplomatic couriers into an unmarked aircraft. Behind him, another agent carried a sealed case. Then a figure appeared on the ramp. Shaw. Smiling, shaking hands. Signing paperwork. The footage continued. Later that night, the same case appeared on camera. Different airport, different handlers. Shaw again, this time with private contractors, not federal escorts. Then the courier disappeared. Then the case disappeared. Then the manifest disappeared. The commander's voice was quiet. That's why he erased you. Thunder cracked overhead, shaking the clearing. Marcus lowered the rifle a fraction more. What do you want from me? The commander answered without hesitation. Help me expose him. A new sound cut through the storm, a low rumble that didn't belong to thunder. Engines. Multiple. Marcus looked toward the far tree line. Headlights flickered between the branches. Not SUVs. Something bigger. Trucks. Armored. Moving fast. The commander's head turned sharply. "That's not my team." Marcus raised the rifle again. "Shaw's?" "Worse," the commander said. Contract hit squad. The tree line exploded in white light. Engines roared. Shadows ran. The commander shouted, "Move!" Marcus sprinted for the back of the cabin. The commander grabbed the unconscious intruders and dragged them out of the doorway. Gunfire tore through the front wall, wood splintering and scattering across the floor. Marcus reached the tree line. Bullets ripped through branches above him. He dove behind a fallen log and scanned the clearing. 6 men. Black tactical armor. No insignia. No hesitation. They weren't here to arrest. They were here to erase. The commander fired back from behind the porch. 2 of the attackers ducked for cover. Marcus saw a path deeper into the woods. Narrow trail, maybe animal-made, maybe old hiking path. He ran for it. Bullets chased him. Rain blurred everything. The forest swallowed him. He didn't stop. He didn't breathe. He didn't look back, because Marcus Hale now understood the truth. Shaw didn't want him erased because he saw too much. He wanted him erased because Marcus was the only person who could stop what came next. The forest swallowed sound. Every step Marcus took disappeared into wet earth and rotting leaves. The rain softened, no longer pounding, just drifting through the branches in slow, cold drops. He kept moving deeper, never straight, never predictable, cutting angles through brush and pine until the gunfire behind him faded into distant pops. The darkness shifted around him in heavy shapes. His muscles burned. His lungs pulled cold air that stung his ribs, but he never looked back. He stopped only when the forest went silent again. No footsteps, no engines, no voices, just rain quietly tapping on leaves and earth. He crouched behind a moss-covered stump and listened. In the stillness, his pulse sounded too loud. He counted the beats, slowed his breathing, focused every sense outward. The cold seeped into his clothes, but he ignored it. Sweat cooled on his neck. Mud caked his boots. His rifle stayed warm beneath his hand. He waited. At first, there was nothing. Then, the faintest noise, brush shifting somewhere far behind him, too quiet for untrained movement. Someone was tracking him. But not a full team, 1 man. The others most likely circled the cabin or swept the clearing. Waiting to hear whether their first wave succeeded, Marcus rose slowly and moved again, stepping carefully over roots and stones, placing each foot where the ground absorbed sound. The forest opened into a small ravine, slick with rainwater. A narrow creek rushed at the bottom. He slid down the slope, boots cutting grooves into mud, grabbed a branch to slow his fall, and landed silently beside the stream. Water masked sound. Water erased tracks. Water hid heat signatures. He followed the creek for 200 yards until he found a hollow space beneath a fallen tree. He ducked under, crouched low, and aimed the rifle toward the slope he had descended. He waited again. Minutes passed. Then he heard it. Boots sliding against wet earth. Someone followed his route down the ravine. Too carefully for panic, too precisely for guesswork. The tracker paused at the stream, listening. Marcus stayed motionless, breathing slow, heartbeat calm. The man waded into the water and moved downstream, following instinct. He passed Marcus's hiding place without turning his head. Patience kept Marcus still. The man took 5 more steps, then stopped, listening for sound ahead. Marcus moved. He slipped from the hollow, came up behind the tracker in 3 silent strides, and struck with the barrel of the rifle. The man dropped into the water, stunned but conscious. Marcus dragged him to the bank and pinned him beneath his knee. The tracker wasn't federal. His gear was too private. No insignia, no ID tags. Contractors, paid men, disposable. The tracker gasped, choking on creek water. Marcus pressed him deeper into the mud, rifle poised. "Your team size," Marcus said. "How many in the squad?" The contractor struggled, spitting mud and water. He tried to reach for something on his vest. Marcus brought the rifle to his neck, stopping the movement cold. Squad size, Marcus repeated. The man exhaled weakly. 8, 2 squads. Rotating perimeter. Another unit en route. How long? Minutes. Marcus tightened his grip. Who deployed you? The tracker hesitated, eyes shifting, calculating, trying to decide if the truth mattered. Shaw, the man said. Direct order. Non-detention engagement, meaning kill on sight. Marcus struck once, clean and sharp, knocking him unconscious. He dragged the body into dense brush, concealed by thorns and wet branches. He stripped a radio from the vest, turned it off, removed the battery, and buried both beneath the leaves. He couldn't stop 8 men. Not alone, but he didn't need to defeat them. He needed to reach someone who could expose Shaw before every file was erased and every witness was silenced. He moved again, deeper into the woods, following the creek until it narrowed into a shallow path. The ground climbed steadily, rising toward higher terrain. Trees thinned. The sky opened. A distant glow shimmered through the branches. Town lights. He followed the faint glow until the forest spat him out onto a rocky overlook. Below lay a small residential area. Porch lights, quiet streets, rows of sleeping houses, safety for most people. But not for him. Too exposed. Too many cameras. Too easy for Shaw's team to spot him. He scanned the horizon and spotted something far better. A cell tower. If he could reach it, climb to the service box and access the emergency relay, he could send a burst transmission to every encrypted contact he still trusted. Even if his credentials were revoked, the raw data feed could carry a message without authentication. The right person would recognize the signal. He started down the hillside, boots slipping on wet stone. The descent was steep. Rain turned the ground slick. He slid twice, caught himself on branches, kept moving. Halfway down, a flash of headlights cut across the clearing below. A vehicle turned onto a service road, white utility truck with FCC markings. Marcus froze, pressed into the shadow of a large fir. The truck stopped beside the tower. 2 men stepped out, technicians, not agents, not contractors, real workers, unaware of anything happening in the dark hills above. Marcus studied the scene. If those men left before Shaw's squad reached town, he could use the tower. But if they stayed, they would be witnesses and targets. He descended the hillside faster, but carefully, choosing heavy brush to hide movement. When he reached the base of the slope, he crouched behind a utility box and watched. The technicians climbed into the tower's fenced perimeter, carrying tool bags. One opened the service cabinet. The other pointed a flashlight up the steel frame. Routine maintenance. They worked in silence for a full minute before the first technician spoke, his voice soft and bored. "Storm's messing up half the lines," the other grunted. "We fix these 3, then I'm done. Been out since 6. They weren't armed. They weren't aware. They had no idea danger was coming." Marcus reached the fence and tapped it lightly with his knuckles. The sound was small, barely audible over the rain, but one technician heard it. He turned, squinting into the dark. "Hello," he called, confused. Marcus stepped out of the shadows, hands up, rifle slung harmlessly across his back. His voice stayed steady, calm. "I need help." "I'm not here to hurt you." The technicians froze, unsure whether to run, call police, or speak. "I'm a federal officer," Marcus said, keeping his voice low. "My ID was stripped. Someone is coming who will kill anyone who sees me. You need to leave. Now." The men stared, frightened, uncertain, but neither dismissed him. Something in Marcus's voice carried weight. Truth does that, especially when it carries fear beneath control. "Please," Marcus said. "Get in the truck. Drive away. Don't stop. Don't call dispatch. Just go." The first technician hesitated, then grabbed his partner and whispered something urgent. They threw tools into the truck, slammed the doors, and backed out fast, kicking gravel behind them. Their taillights vanished down the road in seconds. Marcus climbed over the fence, opened the service cabinet, and pulled out a small black module wired into the relay. He removed a pocket knife, pried off the protective casing, and exposed the internal ports. He connected a cable from the module to a small encrypted transmitter from his jacket. Old equipment, but reliable. The transmitter lit green. He entered a coded sequence, fingers steady despite the cold. Signals found the tower's emergency channel. It asked for authentication. He bypassed it. The tower demanded ID clearance. He bypassed that, too. Firewall protections kicked in, trying to shut the signal. He rerouted them, forcing a temporary override. Finally, the transmitter blinked blue. Connection complete. Broadcast channel open. Marcus typed a single message. Shaw removed files. Diplomatic cargo was biological. Need proof. Need backup. Send location. He hit transmit. The message traveled through the tower like lightning, shot into the data grid, bounced across regional nodes, and blasted into every encrypted address tied to his old clearance profile. Marcus didn't know who would receive it. Maybe one person, maybe none, but someone out there still believed in him. Someone would see the signal and understand. Thunder rumbled in the distance. Engines growled. The sound came from the road behind the tower, multiple vehicles moving fast. Black silhouettes broke through the rain-soaked dark, contractors. They had traced him again. Marcus ripped the transmitter from the module and threw it into the open service cabinet. He slammed the door, locked it, and ran. Floodlights ignited behind him, cutting across the tower and the field. Someone shouted, "There! He's on foot!" Bullets tore through gravel. Sparks burst from rocks. Marcus sprinted across open ground toward a narrow gap in the fence. A bullet clipped the post an inch from his head. Another struck the mud near his boot, sending dirt flying. He dove through the gap, rolled down a shallow ditch, and scrambled to his feet. More bullets chased him, slicing through wet leaves. He darted into the trees, back into darkness, using terrain to break line of sight. Behind him, contractors spread out. Flashlights swept the forest. Footsteps pounded.